Welcome to the Phi Life podcast. I'm John Barban, and I'm with Brad Pilon, and this is going to be a weekly podcast where we'll just discuss issues that we come across and how we can fit the science of health and fitness and, I guess, diet together into your life in a way that it might make sense. So today we're going to be covering a concept that Brad brought up and that we talk about a lot, and that's assuming mechanism. So the idea that when you see something happen, that you assume how it happened. It's okay. I mean, there's a lot of things in your life where you're going to notice, just how something might actually happen, but you may not know exactly how it happens. And that's where a lot of clutter and confusion can come in, and especially in the diet and fitness industry. This happens all the time. Like people will, you'll see on a blog or in a magazine or on a website, someone has a transformation, and when you hear about how they did it, it could be a lot more cumbersome than it needed to be for example, with different diet styles. So, I mean, Brad brought this up, and I guess we were going to talk about the different ways that people assume mechanism and end up getting themselves wasting a lot of time and money and effort, on all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, totally. The whole concept behind this kind of thing is confusing the what with the how with the why, right? And when you overemphasize the how and the why, it's just mind clutter. It's just adding more and more mind clutter to what you're trying to think about, what you're trying to worry about. And a lot of times the how and why it's really just people opining on things, right? Like it's almost guessing, trying to make sense of what happened, what worked, and a lot of times it's piecemeal about other people's how and whys being put together to make your own little how and whys. So, like you said, weight loss is a prime example, right? People lose weight because they ate less and they typically worked out more. No matter what weight loss program you're on, to some degree you ate less and worked out more. But that's not a really interesting blog post, so people have to fill up, a story about how they lost weight with their idea of how eating less or how working out more works. Right? So it's the how and the why. It's leading cause of nutrition mind clutter, I think.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, think of all the different I mean, that's basically messing up the mechanism of how weight loss works is the prime motivating factor for every new diet book that comes out.
Yeah, and it's not just messing up the mechanism, right? Because as you and I know, it's the way your physiology and metabolism works. It's much like a spider web. So there isn't just typically one mechanism. There's a lot of redundant things going on at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what. Yeah, you're right.
They like the best.
Yeah, exactly. It's not seeing the whole picture, and it's just trying to tell somebody a more cumbersome story. Well, I mean, it's the whole. Anybody who's, like you said, anyone who's lost weight obviously ate less, but explaining to somebody that it was anything besides that is where the what and the why gets messed up. Like we already saw what happened. There was weight loss. Why it happened is where all of these different diet books try to sell you a different story or a different theory. And then if you get too caught up in that story, you may think that that's actually what was doing it. And then if you stop eating less, but you're still doing whatever, the story was, low carb or whatever it was, then you're wondering what's wrong. And then that's when you get in this cycle of bouncing from one diet to the next because you're not doing what actually worked. You're just bouncing from all of these incorrect why it works stories.
Exactly. Well, the interesting one is this. If you consider the mistake of the how, is when people actually start with the mechanism, and they're probably thinking about insulin, growth hormone, leptin, something like that. But the really interesting one is they start confusing or making up the why it works. And that's when they actually personify the human body, right? And they start talking about, and I'm sure you've seen it 100 times, is they actually start talking about the decisions your body made. Like when it gets confused because they're not eating enough, so it goes in starvation mode. It's not even a mechanistic-based thing. It's literally giving your body its own little personality where it makes decisions under your best interest. And that's when things get really confusing because now you're explaining away the what happened with your how, and then explaining away the how, you're using a why, right? And it just gets really, really confusing. And the problem is that you lose good advices or even good messages by giving very loose how and whys that are open for debate, right? So a great example is the idea that, you should eat healthy food, right? It's a pretty decent why, right? Like just the advice is eat healthy food. But then when you add a how in, like this one here,